everyone, and welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Marie. Thank you so much for joining me. Happy Tuesday. I hope you guys are doing well. Back at it with yet another video, and today we're going to be taking a look at this up and coming full moon in the sign of Leo. I hope you guys enjoy this, and if you guys are new here, please do click the bell button below and subscribe to the channel so you can see more of my videos here on Tuesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, and Sundays where I'm using tarot and astrology to make sense of what's going on in the cosmos. And drop me a comment below with your rising sign. Maybe let me know how you guys are feeling with some of these full moon vibes. And be sure you guys share this on your socials with other astro-loving friends. While you're there, follow me on X at BTVAstro. So I'm excited to get into this one. Obviously, today we're going to be doing a deep dive into the next lunation, which will be the full moon, a fiery, dramatic full moon in Leo that is very heart-centered, and it's all about stepping into the spotlight. Leo loves to express its authentic self, and it's also about releasing anything that is dimming our inner radiance. Now, this full moon is going to be hitting on February 1st, 2026. I'm here in Texas Central Time, so it's going to be around 4:09 p.m. So that'll be around 2:09 on the Pacific Coast and 5:09 Eastern Time. But I know we have people watching from all over the world, so adjust your time zone accordingly. And this full moon will be taking place around 13 degrees of Leo. And it's really going to be illuminating the themes that are kind of connected to Leo. So being heart-centered, creative, romantic. It's all about leadership and bold self-expression. Now, this will be impacting my Leo placements, especially Leo sun, moon, or rising, if you have anything between 12 or 14 degrees. But if you happen to have a personal planet, a node, or an angle around these degrees, it's going to be impacting you as well. So to my Tauruses, my Scorpios, and also my Aquariuses, if you guys have anything between 12 and 14 degrees, this will be impacting you, and this is a culmination energy with the full moon. So take a look at where Leo is in your chart. Even if you're not any of these signs, you're going to be feeling the effects of the full moon. And if you stay tuned to the end of the video, I'll take you through the 12 rising signs and talk about what this full moon means for you. Now, astrologically, we have a full moon every lunar cycle. So this is going to be like that pinnacle energy point, and it is the peak of this month's kind of lunar cycle. So this is when we see the sun and the moon make an opposition to each other and emotions reach their height. Things come to light, literally, right? And figuratively, if we think about the sun kind of illuminating that polar 180-degree aspect to the moon, and we are releasing things, which is likely going to come out with a roar. For some of us, it's going to feel like creative projects, major turning points in romantic relationships, creative joy, as well as self-expression. And with that opposition, we do feel a face-off. So that's really kind of highlighting the polarities between these two signs, which are fixed signs in air and fire. So it's going to be really kind of pushing us to find the middle ground and find some sense of balance. Balance has been a big theme over the last month. We saw a lot of oppositions in Capricorn season, and as we're moving into Aquarius season with this full moon, we have a gangbuster amount of planets moving through Aquarius that will be opposing this full moon by sign. So it's going to be hard not to kind of see the tug of war that's kind of going on in the skies and also in our own chart. Now, a full moon in Leo is interesting because Leo is associated with the sun. And so we see the moon in a fire sign. So it's going to be bold, it's going to be daring, and we're going to see a lot of emotions about how we feel and what we truly love kind of coming up. So this means that it's going to be amplifying Leo's more vibrant, kind of dramatic qualities. Obviously, with that connection to the sun, this is the sign of joy, and it's about creativity, leadership, even playfulness, and anything that deals with matters of the heart, younger people, and kind of childlike energy as well. This is the energy of the performer. So if we think of Leo as being the actor, Aquarius is kind of the stage. So we're going to see a lot of things popping up connected to, I think, people who are performing, celebrities, and people kind of getting their moment in the spotlight. And obviously, Leo is also kind of regal, right? It's known as kind of being the king or the queen, and it's going to have like this childlike kind of wonder that says, look at me shine. So especially if particular angles or planets are getting highlighted with this full moon for you, I think it's going to be your moment to really kind of stand out. Now, the sun is actually the ruler of this lunation. And I think full moons in Leo are kind of my favorite because I think more than some of the other signs, it really forces us to kind of integrate the polarity. And the sun is obviously making the opposition to the moon, but the sun is also influencing the moon. So we're going to see a lot of bold kind of look at me energy. There's also probably going to be a lot of people feeling like they're kind of going back and forth between their dreams, their goals, their kind of joy versus what's kind of going on out in the collective. And when the sun is in Aquarius, it's detached. This is the opposite sign of Leo. So it's a little bit more innovative. It's focused on kind of the group mindset. And it does contrast a lot with Leo's kind of personal warmth and need for kind of the spotlight. So this polarity is really going to highlight tension between me, Leo, and we, Aquarius. So individual expression versus collective ideals tend to come up under these full moons. If we look at the Sabian symbol and also the degree theory for this is interesting as well, because we are seeing that this full moon is hitting at 13 degrees and change. So it's 13 in about 3 minutes. So this is an Aries degree. So it's going to add a little bit more boldness and also, I think, assertiveness to the flare of this full moon. And if we look at the degrees that are associated with Aries, so it's always 1, 13, or 25, the degree theory is going to give us a little bit more context on how this can actually materialize out in the world as well as in our own lives. So when we see a 13, it has a connection to construct, to build things, anything that's going to be dealing with construction workers, contractors, masons, and anything that deals with building. It's also associated with production. So what we produce, it can be connected to factories, workshops, or factory owners. It's also got a strong connection to the military. So anything that deals with soldiers, armies, uniforms, weapons, rifles, bullets, military barracks, and shooting ranges. And it is a degree that deals with things at an angle. So it can kind of indicate that something's kind of coming to a head, right? When we think to like two kind of parts of something that's meeting at an angle, it's kind of quick moving and it forces us through like a Martian energy to take some kind of action. It's also about engineers, mechanical engineering, machines and tools, or anything that's sharp like nails, knives, needles, something that cuts. And this is a degree of bravery. So it deals with being active, hardworking, industrious, enthusiastic, and somebody who does not want to have like a monotonous grind. It also deals with head, so the top of the head, the nose, anything that deals with the color red, flames, lighters, matchsticks, firemen, fireplaces, physical injuries, wounds, cuts, and aggression. It also deals with sheep, Germany, anything that's hot or spicy, a lot of things that are connected to sports. So we can see a lot of things kind of going on in the sports world, and it deals with leaderships or to be the first. So I think we're going to see a lot of bold action that's kind of coming from leaders. I think we're going to see a lot of major headlines in regards to stuff that's going on with sports and playoffs and Super Bowl and, all that stuff. And there's obviously going to be probably a bit of the public kind of opinion, because the moon rules the public, to what's kind of going on and whether or not people who are on the stage are getting involved in worldly events and making comments or statements about leaders. Now, with the Sabian symbol, we're going to be rounding up. So we're going to be reading 14 degrees. And this is another technique that I use to get a little bit more context to see how this might be materializing in our world. And the Sabian symbol for 14 degrees of Leo is a human soul awakening opportunity for expression. Okay, so on the verge of experience is the theme. The symbol speaks to anticipation and childlike eagerness for a new experience. The focus here is on innocence and absence of mindset, prior conditioning. The image of a human soul awakening to opportunity for expression alludes to readiness, alertness, and naive expectation. At its highest, it represents an intuitive gift for knowing the right time and place to act and the willingness to give the whole self to any effort. Watch for fear of a new experience as the result of an inability to think things thoroughly through, clearly, or boredom can kind of happen with this degree. And the accent is on anticipation. So you might find yourself standing back and waiting for the right time to get involved or show someone what you can do. Your greatest advantage lies in knowing when to act. Use your intuition and be alert to the signatures that tell you when it's time to make your move, and guard against procrastination or missing the chance because you're afraid to make a decision. Don't hide your light under a bushel too long. Stepping stones are expectation, anticipation, eagerness, aspiration, potential, promise, initiation, beginnings, genesis, inception, new experience, sensitivity, ingenuousness, openness, trust, innocence, and gullibility. So I think it's a great moon. I do think it's kind of encouraging us to kind of explore and kind of play and like have fun. I also feel like with this Sabian symbol, it's really interesting because it talks a lot about speaking to our inner essence and like this yearning to be fully expressed out in the world. And it's a call to really like let our soul shine through. So maybe we're waiting for the perfect moment to release something. Maybe we're waiting to kind of release some kind of news. Maybe there's some excitement or some drama. But really it's about bringing into visibility what our purpose is, especially in that particular area of our chart. Now, 13 degrees of Leo falls deep in the second decan of the 3 decans in this sign. And this is the decan that deals with Jupiter. So it's a Jupiter-ruled territory. So the culmination of this energy is going to feel more expansive than usual. It can also be about celebrating, and it can really promote a lot of joy as well as a lot of good luck and opportunities that are kind of waiting for us. So when we blend that with the Sabian symbol, where maybe the human soul is waking up to like the whispers of what we're really meant to manifest, I think it aligns beautifully. I think it's really kind of saying that on a soul level, we're ready to step into the world and have more visibility. Maybe it's about finding our purpose and obviously integrating some of that Jupiter kind of wisdom. So the full moon will really be illuminating moments where you've been waiting patiently in this particular area of your chart. And maybe you've been like experiencing like a strength card moment where you've had to kind of like tame the lion and maybe integrate a little bit of the ego to really kind of figure out what our purpose is. And now it's time for a major launch. So many of us can get recognition. There can be amazing creative breakthroughs and obviously heartfelt expression that's kind of on a bigger stage. Now, in order to better understand this full moon, I wanted to go back and take a look at where this was seated 6 months ago in the summer of 2025. As many of you guys know, we have a full moon, which dates back to 6 months prior where we had a new moon. Maybe we saw a lot of the themes connected to the new moon play out within like the first month of, July and August of 2025. But now this is that full kind of blossoming point. How can we forget the new moon that we had 6 months ago? I know I didn't. It did look a little bit grim or kind of like dire. And this was taking place around July 24th, 2025. This is where we had a new moon in Leo, and it was at 2 degrees. So it was like a Taurus degree. Obviously, we were also experiencing a Mercury retrograde at the same time. And this was in exact opposition to Pluto in Aquarius. So it was almost like there was this fear of standing out, fear of being a star, fear of having fun, being creative, maybe, taking some risks, and also maybe feeling like we couldn't shine or we couldn't share something. It was a pretty heavy vibe. I think the positive is that we did see that this was in a trine to Saturn in Aries and Neptune in Aries. So it was highlighting for a lot of us that we needed to kind of really reevaluate on a personal level who we are, what our goals are, what kind of businesses we want to run, who we want to be out in the world, and how we can become a leader in our own lives. With Saturn retrograde, there was a lot of like, well, the jury's still out. Am I going to be able to do some of these things? And am I able to overcome the fear or potentially even the power struggle to get to where I want to go? We also saw that there was a trine to Neptune, which was also retrograde in Aries, which means we had to kind of get real with ourselves. We had to recognize where we weren't really at the wheel, or we weren't really aware, or we kind of just lost the script altogether. And there was this sobering kind of effect with Saturn and Neptune in Aries, where I think the retrograde was saying there are things we want to do. We don't really feel confident. Maybe we don't feel independent enough. Maybe we're doubting ourselves, but we had to believe. I also love the fact that we saw a sextile to Uranus and Gemini. So I do think that it did prompt a lot of people to study something new, to travel, to keep an open mind. I think we saw a lot of people who got really creative on the internet. When it comes to media, social media, blogging, podcasting, creative writing, and anything that deals with education. So even though there was that stinker of an opposition to Pluto, there were some other things that were kind of helping as well. Now, I want you guys to really pay attention to this up and coming full moon, because I think that with the South Node going into Leo pretty soon, over the summer, we're going to see Jupiter going into Leo pretty soon, and we are going to be seeing eclipses that are going to be happening in this sign. I think it's signaling that there is a breakthrough, but it was kind of seeded with a great amount of pressure. With 2 degrees, it deals with people's money, their resources, anything that deals with food, connections to agriculture. And obviously Leo is the sign that deals with the markets and anything that's connected to like gambling or speculation. So when we looked at the last full moon that kind of took place, I feel like this was a new moon that was really bringing about intense transformation around power and control. Yes, it was a creative rebirth, but globally it coincided with major heightened trade tension. This is where we were seeing kind of like standoffs in regards to, what was going to be happening with incoming tariffs. Pretty common when we see some of the aspects that were kind of playing out. We also saw that this was a time where there was a lot of volatility in the markets. Even though stocks hit record highs, there was a lot of uncertainty. And we saw a lot of banking and geopolitical shifts. So like oil spiked. We also saw that there was drama with EU and China trade deals. So really it was highlighting the opposition between what was going on with individual leaders versus that of collective groups that wanted some kind of power, control, and also decision-making when it comes to wealth. So I do think that when we put it all together, this was a new moon that was saying, look, over the next 6 months, we were going to really face this kind of forced evolution when it comes to structure. Perhaps this brought about some major collective awakenings for a lot of people. And whatever intentions or themes you planted, be that personal or kind of worldly, now we're seeing that fruition kind of coming, full play. So let's go back to the full moon. Let's look at this, and we're going to look at the aspects, because as you guys know, a newer full moon is going to be deemed positive or challenging, really based off of some of the aspects that we see. So first things first, it's in the 2nd decan of Leo. So if you happen to have a birthday around August, like 2nd through like the 10th, this is going to be impacting you quite a bit. It's going to add more of like a distinctive layer to this full moon effect for you. And obviously, if you have anything around like that 12, 13, 14 degrees, even if you're not a Leo or a Leo rising, it's going to be pretty big for you as well. This is squarely in the heart of Leo. So this is where it's holding that energy. Fixed signs are known for being able to kind of carry that energy through. And at least here in the Northern Hemisphere, we're in the middle of winter, right? And so it's nice to see something that's like solar, that's really embracing the warmth and also kind of embracing the sunlight, and really highlighting where even though there can be some heavy stuff going on in the world, there's a lot to celebrate. We still have to have fun. We still have to experience joy. We should not dim our lights, and we should continue pushing forward. Now, with the 2nd decan, because of that connection to Jupiter, some of the themes that you guys are going to see that's going to get highlighted is having healthy ego. I think sometimes the ego gets a bad rap. Like, to be honest with you, we need an ego to be able to get out of bed, go to work in the morning, do things. Like, it is important to recognize its place, especially with a full moon like this. But it's about healthy ego expansion. Having confidence that feels earned and also kind of benevolent, but not arrogant. This is also about victory and recognition. So this is going to be a decan that's kind of linked to the 6 of Wands in the tarot, which deals with triumph and being able to move forward and getting public recognition after all of the effort that we do. So we might feel like, hey, we're getting a pat on the back or we're getting a high five, versus also we're going to see out in the world, there's going to be leaders that are going to be getting recognition for opposing some of the kind of, more dystopian moves that certain, I think, global governments are kind of pushing for, with all those planets and Pluto in Aquarius in opposition to this. I think that this really tells us that it has to be about patience. It reminds me a lot of the Strength card, where it's really kind of about taming the lion and holding space and allowing something to kind of grow and take on a life of its own. And it's also about channeling the more dramatic energy into something that's more like focused goals, without this restless drive for learning, travel, or kind of broadening influence. Now, we can see there's a lot of optimism here. There can be a lot of abundance here. So this is definitely a full moon that I think can really light up the markets. I think it can also be a full moon that's really kind of highlighting anything that's connected to gold, anything that's connected to solar energy, anything that's going to be dealing with celebrities, artists, performers. And Jupiter will amplify this. And it's known to be a very generous planet. Now, it's not aspecting Jupiter, obviously, but I think that you're still going to see that this is really making it great for those of us who really want to focus on leadership through teaching and inspiring other people. So we may find that there's teachers in our lives, there's mentors, there's going to be leaders, even celebrities and people who are out there, and we're like, wow, I want to be more like that person. But the darker side of a Leo full moon is drama. Remember, guys, in recent years, we've had Mercury retrogrades here, we've had Mars retrogrades here, and all of those have been in opposition to Pluto. Now, by sign, sure, it's within a 10-degree orb of an opposition to Pluto, but by my book, it's a little bit too wide to oppose Pluto. It's possible the day leading up to this, as we're seeing the moon coming into Leo, opposing Pluto, and then all these other planets in Aquarius, there's definitely going to be some collective things going on. I would just say watch for people who exaggerate drama, maybe being a little too overconfident or cocky. We need to make sure that we keep that in check. All right, so let's break down the aspects and let's talk about why I think this is actually a pretty decent full moon. Well, as always, the sun and the moon are going to be opposing each other. So it's going to be highlighting the polarity between these two signs. Like I said, the actor, the stage, the creator, the inner child, the me energy is getting highlighted emotionally, and it's in opposition to Aquarius. So we may see a lot of people who are being daring, standing out, going up against, or maybe not agreeing with what's kind of going on with some of the collective flows that are out there. I think with the sun ruling the moon sign and it's in rebellious Aquarius, it's really pushing for innovation. We're going to see a huge focus on what's going on with collective movements and humanitarian movements. And we're going to see a lot of people who are going to be kind of pushing back, saying, well, there's certain leaders that are kind of acting with ego. Try to stay out of that drama. Try to focus more on where if things get a little heavy, and they will end of January going into February, what little things you can do that bring you joy, right? So it could be a hobby, it could be hanging out with your kids, it could be, you know, going and playing your favorite game, maybe focusing on a new pastime with your sweetheart, something fun to kind of lighten some of the heavy Mars-Pluto energy that's going to be in the skies leading up to this full moon. I also think that, you know, really this is where individuals are going to shine if they want to actually stand up, be a leader, and help what's going on with certain kind of collective movements and doing things for the greater good. So we may see that there are people who are standing out and they're kind of like a star, but they're like, it's not just about me, it's about what I'm trying to change or what I'm trying to do to help humanity. And they're going to be able to put their ego aside and be able to kind of align with collective groups for a good cause. So I think this could actually be really wonderful. Obviously, end of January into February, we see quite the Aquarius stellium that is setting up. And this is the last lunation before we have the solar eclipse that's going to be taking place in Aquarius in mid-February. So right after we have this lunation, we're already within the 2-week window. We're going to start feeling the energy start to swell, and it's going to highlight some of the polarity themes between these two signs. Sun, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Pluto, all by sign in the opposite sign of the moon. So what you'll see is when the moon's coming in earlier in the day on the 1st, it's going to oppose Pluto, it's going to oppose Mars. So it means that there's going to be a lot of kind of collective stirring going on, some conflict, some agitation, some anger. And then we're going to see the full moon hit, and then the moon's going to oppose Venus, and then it's going to oppose Mercury. So honestly, I would say the 1st and the 2nd are like hot, hot, hot with some of the oppositions. Obviously, this cluster of planets in Aquarius is incredibly rare. We see Mars go through Aquarius every 2 years. You know, Mercury and Venus always follow the sun, but Pluto is there. And that's what makes this particular transit incredibly different than what we've seen in previous years. We saw one of these in 2024, and we haven't really seen one, at least in modern day times, since then. So every 2 years, we're going to see a full moon that's going to happen in Leo while we're having Mars going through there. So you will see some kind of peak collective things that are swelling, and then people are going to be looking at leaders to see what they're doing to kind of manage some of the changes that are kind of happening with humanity. Now, this cluster is really emphasizing collective change. Aquarius could be in networks, online. It could also be relating to energy. It could be about the future. It can also talk about politics. So all of these things that are kind of connected to innovation and the future is Aquarius's kind of like MO. It's also about group dynamics. So we'll find that this full moon is really intensifying, I think, all of that cluster through the polarity. And Leo moon really craves some kind of like personal acclaim, while Aquarius energy is demanding more detachment and progress. And so this is where balancing the ego is going to be a little tricky. With that Aquarius stellium that's opposing the moon, it's really going to, I think, bring about some of the more Jupiterian nature of the decan that the moon is in. So it's encouraging us to be bold against, some kind of grim things in the future. It's about being generous. It's about being creative, practicing self-expression that will benefit the collective, right? That's really the theme here. It's about Leo's heart and kind of Jupiter's wisdom, rather than functioning purely out of ego. We don't want to be doing things because we want the applause and the recognition from the crowd. We just want to do good things and be creative in the process. So I do expect themes of like personal triumph meeting certain things that can be really good for humanity. So think creative leaders, artists, even influencers that are getting spotlighted for their work that inspires and focuses on uniting people, not dividing them. Division is definitely a hot topic, especially when you see Mars and Pluto that are slightly in opposition to this moon. I think that adding more to that, we've also got Mars and Venus that are under kind of the beams of the sun. So Mars and Venus are combust. They've been moving side by side with the sun for quite some time. First was in Capricorn, now it's moving into Aquarius. And when these planets are within 10 degrees, it's almost like they're getting burned up, right? It's kind of like Icarus. You guys have heard that story. He's got the wings, he flies too close, and then the wings melt, right? And he falls. So there's going to be a lot of energy that's putting emphasis on Mars in Aquarius, which is going to be about movement and kind of action with groups and where people are kind of getting together, and there can be positive movement, but there can also be a little bit of rebelliousness and some chaos. And then we've got Venus in Aquarius, which is going to talk about our relationships or artists or money or beauty or anything that's going to be dealing with needing a little bit of space to really unite people. So, when these two are so close, they're kind of burned up, and we've got Mars's passion, we've got Venus's kind of values, and they may feel hidden or overwhelmed by ego or identity issues, leading to intense but possibly frustrated desires. So when I think about Aquarius, it's really good about being an individual within a group of people. The problem is that I do think we're going to see so many people getting riled up in what's going on in the headlines and what's kind of happening with like collective movements, that the few people who stand up and say no, or I'm not going to get combative, or I'm not going to focus on conflict, or I'm not going to get violent, or I'm not willing to create a stir, you are going to see some people are going to kind of like start to separate in certain groups. And this is where individuals will wake up and realize like, this is not really what I signed up for. This is not maybe the movement or the organization or the network or the group that I really want to be a part of. And then they're going to kind of stick out like a sore thumb. And it can definitely seem like that person is being kind of like, egotistical or a little too bold or a little too cocky. Now, Venus and Mars are also slightly opposing the moon. So we've got Mars at a 7, so it's within about 6-degree orb of an opposition here. Venus at a 19, so it's within about a 6-degree opposition here. And this can feel like emotionally there is something that is kind of at odds with us. It can mean that with this opposition, there is a lot of direct tension between our personal romance and creativity and kind of detached connections or social connections. So once again, drama in relationships, and where we're seeing individuality is kind of clashing with partnership needs. Now, it may not be romantic for all people. It can mean that it's going to be more our social networks or what we're seeing on, social media or with our friend groups, and that there are some bold people who are willing to kind of speak from the heart, and they may feel like their social groups are not really seeing eye to eye with them. And it can kind of like inflame the situation. So it can create a lot of dynamics where people become very kind of black and white and kind of conditional in relationships. So be mindful of that people are going to be very bold with their beliefs. And we will also see Sun, Venus, and Mercury all in conjunct and quincunx Jupiter. Okay, so Venus is quincunx, the Sun is quincunx, Mars is quincunx, almost Mercury too. And they're not really kind of seeing eye to eye. So what this means is with some of these kind of awkward aspects is that emotional expansion or maybe reflecting or being more vulnerable or maybe even getting out of the house and socializing feels a little like it's rubbing us the wrong way. Jupiter in Cancer is all about nurturing the home and family, and it doesn't really align with some of the things that are kind of going on with some of the more social kind of bold self-expression energy that's taking place in Aquarius. So there is some kind of adjustment that's needed. Sometimes when Jupiter is retrograde in Cancer, people feel a little bit more hermity. There can also be a sense of them not wanting to get out of their comfort zone, not wanting to kind of get involved with some of the things that are happening out in the world, and they can be feeling like they're a little bit more emotionally kind of conflicted. It can also mean that just our social schedule is just kind of jam-packed with a lot of things that we have to go and do and connect with other people. And it's really making us reevaluate, am I spending too much time at home? Like, is there too much family stuff going on? Do we need to make some adjustments on the home front? Or do there need to be some emotional shifts so that way we can better connect and kind of collaborate with other people? Now, the positive is that we are going to be seeing that there are some sextiles taking place from Venus and Mercury in Aquarius to Chiron in Aries. So we've got air and fire fueling each other. These sextiles are friendly. It means that there will be potential healing opportunities that can come through communication and connecting with like-minded people. Likely this is about communicating our values, what we like, what we don't like, and finding people who feel like they're our tribe. So wounds around independence, identity, maybe feeling a little cast aside in society, or just on our own, can be totally soothed and smoothed over if we are aligning with our goals and also the appropriate groups. Now, the challenge is that we're going to see Mercury in Aquarius coming into a square with Uranus in Taurus. It's about 6 degrees away, but what you guys will find is that for the days to follow after this full moon, Mercury, Venus, the Sun, and eventually Mars will also have to come into a square with Uranus and Taurus. Uranus is the dispositor of all of this Aquarius. So it's saying a lot of the disruptions that's kind of going on in the world or within groups or within networks or even with the future is really kind of hinging on some of these things that are rather unstable with banking, finances, resources, food. But also, Uranus is very grounded. It has a tendency to focus on pure values. It's a little bit more conservative. It has a tendency also to kind of move slow, and it doesn't want to make any quick pivots when it comes to its resources or its money, just because of what the kind of collective is saying. So when we see this Mercury-Uranus square, it basically means that there will be sudden insights that will come up during this full moon. Maybe rebellious thoughts, obviously some disruptions potentially with tech or communications. But I think it can actually promote some really brilliant group ideas. It's just very unpredictable. And we have to be careful with Mercury because it is the dispositor or the ruler of the South Node. So it may mean that there is going to be a lot of collective movements to say, hey, don't buy from this company, don't support this brand, don't work for this company. And people are going to be pushing back, and they're going to be having a lot of like moral and kind of ethical dilemmas, I think, about where their money is going. And it's also going to be probably a kind of speeding up of what's going on in politics, where politics or politicians are going to start kind of, meandering and talking about, the changes that are going to be happening with the financial system or changes that are going to be happening with food or agriculture. It may be some big announcements about what's going to be happening with banking, particularly things that are connected to like digital resources or crypto. And a lot of people who are going to be kind of like going back and forth about, what the future holds with financial kind of trade and transactions, and then how that will in turn impact the market. So watch for the communication. I think we can feel a little frazzled, or this can be like a situation where we're getting heavily influenced by what we're seeing on social media, or what our friends are saying, or what we should be buying, or what we should be investing in. And you're just going to see people just have very extreme views. The other thing that I noted is now Neptune is back in Aries. Okay, so it's back in Aries. It is there to stay, and it is sitting back at the 0 degree cardinal point, the same degrees that we saw round about the last time that we had that new moon in Leo. So whenever we have anything at 0 degrees of the cardinal points, it's a fresh start. And so Neptune in Aries can signify that there are a lot of people who are now waking up maybe to their potential, or we're going to see some things rapidly kind of developing. Neptune is very much connected to what's going on with Mars because it's in a Aries Martian ruled sign. And Mars is conjunct Pluto. So just the days leading up to this to this full moon, we're going to see Mars and Pluto in conjunction, which could definitely be a lot of conflict that's kind of going on in society. We could see some, angry kind of protesting. We can see a lot of drama involving vehicles and transportation, pressure that's going on in neighborhoods, and also things that are connected to like neighbors and just communities. It could also be kind of the talk that's in certain online communities as well. I did cover some of this stuff if you guys looked at my Mars and Aquarius video, or if you guys saw my my video that I talked about all the planets kind of going into Aquarius and why this Aquarius kind of season is different. I guess the one thing that I would say about this is that this is a very powerful world axis position. So it's saying that when it comes to individuals, their dreams, their illusions, their spiritual beginnings, or what they're waking up to is really pushing us to focus on kind of collective inspiration. Or a lot of us are going to have confusion on the I am level because we are getting grouped in together with feeling like we have to follow certain groupthink or beliefs or certain political lines. And yeah, it could definitely be a little gnarly here, because I think that you may see, unfortunately, some leaders that are basically kind of condoning some of the conflict or the violence. Or they're going to be saying, well, get out there and fight and protest and do this and do that. And they'll be like instigating drama and violence. So you really want to think in the back of your mind, is this my fight to fight? Is this truly what I believe in? And if it is what I believe in, is there a way to be able to do it that can be unifying and not like creating more conflict and more separation? Some of you guys may feel like there's some drama kind of going on in your social groups, or there's some conflicts of opinion. And the Neptune energy can kind of materialize as being like, well, am I alone out here? Like, what am I doing? All the more reason to really lean into the Leo full moon and really focus on where you can find your personal joy, even if things feel a little kind of combative out in the world. Now, collectively, I think what we're going to see, because this decan has that association with Jupiter, some kind of culminations around leadership. It can also be connected to education, both for children as well as like on a collegiate level. It's also connected to publishing or social movements. So we can see that there can be some victories that feel meaningful and very expansive, but also the definite potential for dramatic reveals or over-the-top celebrations or releases. I think with these aspects and the Sabian symbol, it's really suggesting that there's going to be a breakthrough in self-actualization amid some of the more revolutionary kind of Aquarius energies. And I would expect visibility for creative leaders, humanitarian movements gaining traction, but also dramatic release of ego and power struggles as it's connected to that previous new moon in Leo that opposed Pluto. Remember, this is like where the soul's whisper is now becoming a roar. So what started off as like a little lion cub is now turning into like a full-blown lion. And this is giving us, I think, a lot of opportunities for authentic manifestation, especially when it's connected to tech, community, or personal branding. I think we will also see just the overall theme of this full moon is going to be about innovation versus tradition, with possible culminations in social reforms as well as creative revolution. So it can be a major kind of turning point where there's some big releases for artists, some big performances as well. But on an individual level, this is really hitting your confidence, creativity, and leadership in a positive way. We want to focus on releasing fears of being too much or unseen. It's also a time to celebrate your uniqueness while honoring the collective and creating something that you can share with like-minded individuals. As for how this is going to impact you personally, take a look and see if you have anything, like I said, around that 12 to 14 degrees. But I think that if you do have anything around these degrees, you're going to feel like this is a personal victory lap for you. Maybe it's a time of kind of releasing self-doubt and stepping into the world with like much more amplified confidence and wisdom, and sharing that with other people through art or creative expression, through writing, or even through travel. And it's a great time for leadership publicly. Now, I think to really harness this energy, I think, first of all, it's a full moon that has a strong connection and correlation with like a Jupiter energy. So affirming our worth and celebrating wins, whether they're big or small, is a great thing to do during this full moon. I would say pursuing learning or expansion and really expressing from your heart space and being optimistic about the future, because there is going to be a lot of doom and gloom. But I think that where there is this pressure in Aquarius, certain people are going to rise to the occasion and be seen as the leader that they are. If you're somebody who wants to work with herbs or crystals or stones, I've got you covered. But one thing I would say that you really want to do is work with solar energies. Get out, get some sunshine, do some kind of sun salutations in the morning, some stretches and some hot tea, maybe light a candle, and there you have it. You don't really have to do anything too crazy. You can work with crystals if you want. You can work with stones. I would say vision boarding or doing something like a creative collage could be wonderful for this full moon. And the herbs that are associated with a full moon like this would be sunflowers, chamomile, or rosemary. These are all great for vitality. They're great for courage. They're great for strength. So you can cook with it. You can put some chamomile in your tea. You could take a hot bath. You can also buy yourself some sunflowers if you can find it in your parts of the woods at this time of year. Now for oils that I like to use for Leo, I think it would be wonderful to use anything that has a citrus blend like orange or lime. You can also use frankincense or cinnamon for warmth and confidence. And for crystals, I recommend using sunstone, citrine, or carnelian. Tiger's eye is great as well, or ruby if you have it. These are all solar energies. It's for really working with the solar plex, getting creative, feeling confident, and having any kind of heart activation during the time of the full moon. So I'm going to take you guys through the 12 rising signs. I'm going to talk about where this full moon is taking place and what it means for you. As always, I'm a Western astrologer, so that's the kind of astrology that I like to practice. I'm not a Vedic astrologer, and I'm going to be showing this to you guys from the perspective of the whole rising sign system. So to make the most of my predictions, you're going to want to listen to your rising sign first because it's going to talk about specifically which house the full moon is taking place in. You can also listen to your sun sign if you want to know how it's impacting you, especially with your creativity, your ego, your career. Because it is also a solar moon, I really recommend listening to your sun sign. I think a lot of sun signs might really resonate with that one. And the moon sign is going to be talking more about how it's impacting you emotionally. Now, I'm a Placidus user. That's what I like to use. And so because this is at 13 degrees, some of you guys may actually have to listen to more than one rising sign to get the full scope of what's going on. But if you know your Placidus chart, then see where 13 degrees of Leo is in your chart, and it's going to show you exactly where the full moon is taking place. And we're going to start with my Aries and my Aries risings. All right, Aries, well, you're going to be doing this full moon in the sign of Leo in your natal 5th house. Fellow sister fire sign, I dig it. I do think that it can be really wonderful for you because especially if you have anything around that 12 to 14 degrees, you're going to have a trine. Obviously, the moon has this connection and correlation with your emotions, your home, your family, and the past. And the full moon is going to be taking place in your 5th house. So a lot of what I've been saying about that connection to romance, to playtime, to creativity, even children can be a really big theme for you. I do predict a lot of Aries and Aries risings are either going to be having some fireworks when it comes to their love life, some creative launches that can be taking place, maybe completing a new hobby, or just quite frankly, taking some risks. Now, I do think it's interesting that the moon is going to oppose Mars and Pluto, so you may feel a little triggered right before the full moon comes through. But think of this as like a culmination of fun and self-expression. With that polarity with Mars and all the other planets in your 11th house, it's really about balancing your personal joy with group goals. Maybe you have something that's big news that involves your love life, something that you've painted, something you've created, or potentially even news of pregnancy that you want to share with people or friends. I think that could be a big one. This is really about just creating boldly and releasing any rigid social ties where you feel like certain people are sucking the fun out of the room. All right, Aries, let's take a look and let's see what you need to know about this full moon. Definitely could see a lot of Aries placements having big themes around children. Some Aries and Aries risings maybe finding out they're pregnant. Some of you guys might be launching your own businesses. Others are going to be feeling like they have found the appropriate group or network that they can kind of share their creative stuff with. And the card that you guys get is the 7 of Wands. As an Aries moon, I feel this. I feel like it's about standing your ground. And it's going to get tested a little bit because you're probably going to notice that there is definitely this huge sway that either the internet, the collective, your friends, even your goals, right? The 11th house can be your goals. So there is some kind of goal that may be coming to fruition and you're like kind of standing your ground and you're like, nope, this is what makes me happy. If other people don't like it, I don't really care. This is how I'm going to express myself. This is what I want. And really being able to carve out some time to just have your own personal joy. You may also feel like you have to stand up for what it is that you love, what it is that you believe in, or what you've created. And there could be a little bit of drama, but I feel like you're unwilling to back down and likely you're going to be victorious in the process. Aries, this is a good one for you. You guys will have to let me know what happens during this full moon. All right, for my Tauruses and my Taurus risings, what's up, Taurus? You guys are doing a full moon in Leo taking place in your natal 4th house. Obviously, 12 to 14 degrees of Taurus. You guys are going to get squared a little bit. You're probably feeling a little frazzled with some of the oppositions and the squares between your 4th and your 10th house. So just hang in there. But the moon likes being in the 4th house. So this can represent that there is some major culmination and kind of blossoming or blooming of what has felt like a rather tedious last 6 months of balancing your home and also your career. Now, a full moon in the fourth house means that it's touching on home and family, but it could be things like there is some big news with a sibling, maybe you are moving, maybe there is a relative or a woman coming to stay with you, maybe you're buying, you're selling, you're redecorating, or maybe it's just about, quite frankly, taking time to focus on your emotions and your home and family while work feels a little crazy. Obviously, your chart ruler is moving through the 10th house where there is just a lot on your shoulders right now when it comes to work, responsibility, leadership, or just taking care of business. So this is highlighting kind of that balance that you need to find between home and also your professional life. Now, I do think that emotional spotlights are going to be put on your home and your security. So this is going to feel like it's career versus your private life. And I would say for a lot of you guys, this is about really honoring your inner child at home. Do something creative at home, maybe renovate, redecorate, move a room around. It could also mean that this is about really important conversations that you're having with family because the moon rules communication. And it can be with women and other people who might be coming to visit, like I said. I do think for a lot of you guys, I would look back at what happened with the Mars retrograde that was at the beginning of 2025 in this house. I would look at the Mercury retrograde that you had last year in this house, because everything has been in preparation to feel like you're finally going to have more time at home or more time with your family or find your dream space. That will be coming for you guys, but I think really this is just a lot of patience, and maybe there is this realization of what your goals are going to be and exactly what moves you're having to make out in the world to really secure a little bit more time in the sun this summer. Taurus, for this Leo full moon, the card that you guys get is the 10 of Wands. Are some Tauruses moving? Are you guys going to be moving? Are you having to like move boxes, reorganize things? Are you clearing stuff out of your house? Like, it looks like it at least is a culmination. This is about releasing that kind of burden that's been on your shoulders, feeling like you're just right at the finish line and you're just about ready to give up. So maybe you have figured out exactly what you need to do to kind of balance out the home and family situation. It's also really saying that this could be something that could bring you a lot of joy. So keep in mind that even though you've been really working hard, kind of killing it out in the world, you're going to see a lot of like the fruit of your labors start materializing, especially this summer. Don't give up. And if there is a lot of heavy lifting that you have to do at home, communicate, ask for some help so you don't have to take on that all by yourself. Good luck, my Tauruses. Geminis and Gemini risings, you guys are going to do a full moon in your natal third house of Leo. Friendly by sign, sextiles you because you're an air sign. So I don't really feel like you guys are going to have too much of a challenge. There's a lot of planets coming from Aquarius too that's supporting you as well. But for you guys, Gemini, you're doing the full moon in Leo in your third. So this is a house that deals with communication. It deals with signing contracts, traveling, learning, gadgets, vehicles, siblings, and also your neighborhood. Now, the moon is connected to anything that deals with values, money, resources. So there can be lots of talk about, well, where are we traveling? Are we buying cars? Are we changing cars? There could be conversations revolving around finances that can be going on. And for the most part, I feel like it's going to be rather easy for you guys to navigate. Now, the oppositions that you're seeing to planets in Aquarius in your 9th house is really highlighting bold self-expression in comparison to beliefs and philosophy. So a lot of it can be education-based. You can be completing programs. You can be planning trips. Some of you guys might be either moving or going on a short trip as well around this time. And it's really about speaking your truth fearlessly. Now, your planet was one of the first planets to come into conjunction with Pluto. It was Venus and also Mercury. So you've already gone through that philosophy shift. There's been that change here. Maybe it means that you're having to kind of get outside of the box and move away from what you thought you knew to embrace a different philosophy or travel and see the world. But I do think it'll be good for you guys, especially if you can really tap into your communication skills, especially if you're somebody who is writing, blogging, podcasting, wanting to complete websites, things like that. And stuff that's connected to marketing, I could see that being a big theme with the 3rd and the 9th house axis that's getting activated. So let's take a look and let's see what we need to tell the Gemini and Gemini risings about this full moon in Leo. The card that they get is the 10 of Pentacles. I love this card for you guys. I feel like it could be some good financial news. Ten of Pentacles is about long-term planning, making sure that you're getting all your ducks in a row for like your family, your legacy, long-term goals. But it could also mean that with the connection to the moon in the second house, you're having conversations about what it is that you do want to be investing in: education, travel, vehicles, that kind of stuff. It can also mean that there's some good news that's connected to family money that can be kind of coming through this, or some contractual agreements, some business changes that are going to be good for you in the long term. So have these conversations, sign the documents, be bold about some of this stuff, and commit to travel or anything that expands your mind. Good luck, Gemini. For my Cancers, my Cancer risings, you guys are going to be doing this full moon in Leo, taking place in your natal second house. Cancer, you're ruled by the moon, so this is important because it does kind of represent you having a bit of a square off with another person. And the second house is your money and your resources, while the eighth house represents others. So think taxes, joint income, investments, savings, inheritances, insurance-related matters, all of that stuff. So this is definitely a very financial full moon for my Cancer and Cancer risings. This is the one where you have been kind of battling and going back and forth with a financial issue or potentially some self-esteem challenges over the last 6 months. I do think that there is this culmination in self-worth that's happening for you guys. I also think that with Aquarius in the eighth house getting lit up, it is showing that you need to be vulnerable, that you need to be open, that you need to be willing to receive support, whether that's financial or emotional. And it can talk about some really amazing building energies where finally there is a bit of a windfall or potentially a loan situation or money that's coming your way, so you feel like you have security. Big purchases can also happen around these particular full moons. So if you've been waiting for the money to come in, or you have to make a big decision about a purchase, it definitely makes sense. I would just say with the moon being you and the sun ruling your money, it seems like you're also maybe in a bit of a tug of war that's like, do I want to buy this? Do I want to spend that? You know, is it a good idea to be doing this now? Or maybe you're just pushing to get what you're owed. So just reclaim, I think, your deservingness. This is about knowing I am worthy. I'm open to receiving. I accept this. You know, yes, I will take that. And letting the universe kind of give you the security that you need to feel more confident and more secure, especially if you're doing anything that's creative. And it can also be a time where emerging that can be kind of happening financially can be very, very supportive for you in the long run. All right, Cancer. So let's take a look and see what is happening with this full moon in your second house. What can Cancer expect? Ace of Swords. I think that's Mercury. I think with Mercury going through Aquarius, it can be basically talking about tax-related matters, contracts, things that you're signing, applying for loans, having conversations about money being paid, being very direct and to the point, especially with Mars being there. That can be definitely the Ace of Swords. And negotiating when it comes to business. So maybe you guys are getting business loans, you're negotiating salaries, you're cashing out on retirement. Some of you guys also might be talking about how you can like get more, or you can kind of negotiate, getting just like a higher percentage if you're in like a sales position. So you have to tell other people what you want. You may have to kind of stand up for yourself and be like, no, I'm owed this, or this is what I need, or this is, you know, what I want for my salary, or this is going to be my rate. Stand by that, know your worth, and you'll see the money roll in. Good luck, Cancer. What a great card for you guys. For my Leos and Leo risings, you guys are the stars of the show. Obviously 12, 13, 14 degrees. If you have anything there, this is getting highlighted for you. You are in the spotlight. Now, something to think about is that the first house for you represents your identity and yourself. So I want you guys to go back in your time machines mentally, think about what was going on last summer, where there was definitely this dilemma where you were trying to figure out, who am I in opposition to another person? Whether you were looking for a relationship, maybe you were in one that was going through a difficult period, maybe it was a realization that you needed to focus more on yourself and not get caught up in other people's kind of traumas. Regardless of what has happened, this is the full kind of culmination of the last 6 months of doing a lot of personal self-reflecting. The moon is connected to your 12th house of your emotions, your home, your subconscious, and hidden feelings. So as the full moon comes in, it's opposing all of these planets going through your 7th house, where you may react and respond very emotionally to things that are kind of happening in relationship land. Now, your 7th house could be a therapist that kind of pokes and prods you a little bit. It can also be a committed relationship where somebody's going through a lot of change. Maybe it's prompting you to really focus on standing out and being seen so you can attract a new partner. But all in all, it's about you, some major personal culmination. I think with the oppositions to Aquarius in the 7th, this is really saying like, okay, other people can do their thing. I don't have to be totally tied up in the identity of being in a partnership or being somebody's spouse or being somebody's best friend. I need to do what's best for me. So it's really about shining authentically, releasing codependency in relationships. This can also mean that this is a pivotal time where your emotions are showing you whether or not a partnership is working. And the positive is that you can have a full-blown glow up. So if you've been making changes in your health, your habits, your appearance, this can be kind of like that fruition point where now all of a sudden you're glowing and you're being seen and potentially very sought after by other people. Other people may be asking you like, you know, why are you doing this? Or why are you doing that? Or why are you changing your hair? Or this and that. And I would be like, because it's what I want to do. Like, why do you care? You know, don't let other people influence you or kind of, dim your light during this full moon. And it is possible for some of you guys who are Leos and Leo risings that this can also be an indication of family expanding and pregnancy. All right, let's take a look and let's see, what do you need to know? So complex with your chart ruler being in the 7th. I do feel like, you're kind of getting it from all angles right now. So let's see, what do my Leos need to know about this big, beautiful full moon in their sign? I get the 4 of Wands. Are some Leos and Leos finally like getting to a turning point where there's like a culmination in a relationship, right? You would think that would be the full moon in your 7th. Next month, obviously, we're going to have a solar eclipse in your 7th. But is this the pushing point where some of you guys are finally going into committed relationships? This is the card of marriage. So 4 of Wands is celebrating our differences and still being able to come together. 4 of Wands is also giving yourself recognition and a pat on the back for what you have been able to accomplish. You may not be all the way to your goal yet, whether that's in a relationship or personally, but it's saying enjoying the time while you have it, taking center stage, especially if there's anything where you're performing or you're going to be involved in stuff that's artistic or things that are connected to being in front of groups of people and being celebrated. So I really like this. I feel like a lot of you guys are going to be very sought after with this card. But I feel like that sun being in the 7th house in the opposition to the moon is also saying that really what you're celebrating is how you have evolved and changed, and there in turn, it's impacting your relationship. So it's putting pressure on other people to step up and meet you halfway. It might go a little bit better than you think. So you guys will have to let me know what happens. Definitely some intense energy for you in your 7th house. All right, Virgo and Virgo risings, you guys are going to experience a full moon in Leo taking place in your natal 12th house. Virgo, the 12th house is subconscious. It's hidden. It's your bedroom, private spaces, healing spaces, things that are kind of like in your dreams. It's also about tapping into your, inner creative, your inner romantic, and anything that is like, kind of kept from other people. Now, you have to be careful when you see full moons and new moons in the 6th and in the 12th houses, because these are kind of like no man's land in astrology. It may not seem like there's much going on the surface, but subconsciously there is something brewing. Now, the moon deals with your goals. It's also about friends and community. So for the full moon to be in the 12th house, it may be saying that you're kind of feeling a little less than social. You may feel like you need to be a little bit more reflective at the time of the full moon. It can also mean that this is the time to tap into some of the more kind of subtle energies of your intuition or your spiritual practice. And it's about this inner radiance that's going to be emerging. And so if you're really leaning on having a healthy spiritual routine, and I would say with like Leo in the 12th house, it's, do you have a hobby? Do you play an instrument? Is there something creative you do? Is there a talent that you're not utilizing? Do you need some time in the sun by yourself? Do you need to maybe do some traveling or some soul searching? That's going to balance out some of the energy in the 6th house where you feel probably just totally swamped with what's going on with your kind of schedule and your health. So with the sun being in the 6th house, it's saying if you want to actually emotionally feel better or feel happier, you have to get the show on the road and start shifting your daily habits. And that starts with your schedule, your routine, and also I think implementing a little bit more technology and things that can help you feel better balanced. If you're realizing that you're not feeling very well or you're under the weather or you're not getting enough sleep, it's because there is not enough structure in your day-to-day with those oppositions to the 6th. So really it's about, I think, embracing routines in your health. Healing through creative solitude is something that I would really recommend. Baking that into your schedule, right? I've said this to a lot of my Virgo risings recently. I'm like, you need to go and block off like a few hours once a week where you don't have anything to do. You know, where if you want to watch a movie, if you want to paint or draw, if you want to hang out with friends, if you decide that, you know, you want to be alone in your studio, you need to start blocking off that time. And it may feel overwhelming, but I do think really what it's teaching you is that you have to make the time to do this, so that way you don't feel totally consumed by your work, and also maybe some of the mini dramas that are going on with coworkers. So Virgo, I hope that this is a good one for you guys. I hope you guys get some much needed kind of rest and recuperation. Definitely I would be integrating like red light therapy or red light saunas, candle burning, anything that's connected to creativity in private, I think will really help you balance this out. And the card that I get is the Knight of Swords. Okay, so this can be some support coming from a Gemini, a Libra, or an Aquarius. This could also be indicating, like with Mars and Mercury going through your 6th house, having to be a little bit more diligent when it comes to your schedule and telling people what you do and do not have time for. It's going to feel like there's a lot of work going on in the month of February between this full moon and then the next coming solar eclipse. But maybe this means that you're finding a new way to kind of communicate and tell people your availability. And it may mean that you're having to kind of delegate tasks to other people, or checking in with somebody who you can talk to. So it could be a therapist, it could be a dietitian, it could be a trainer, and really taking action. And when you say you're going to do something, following up with it, even if that means promising yourself a little bit more downtime. Good luck, Virgo. Let me know what happens. For my Libras and Libra risings, you guys are going to be doing this full moon in Leo in your natal 11th house. Libra, this is pretty friendly for you, especially if you're like a mid-degree Libra. It'll be sextiling, but it is highlighting your 11th and your 5th house. So when you have a full moon in the 11th house, this is a time where you're able to really put the spotlight on your goals, okay? I want you to think about what your goals have been over the last 6 months. Whether that is your goals when it comes to creative projects, Leo, having more social time, maybe joining a group, launching a group. It could also mean that it's somehow kind of connected to parties, celebrations, and the moon is directly connected to your 10th house of career. So if you're a Libra or Libra rising who owns a business, or you work with a company or a group of people, or maybe you need to make some big kind of announcement, or there's some kind of social aspect of your job, this would be the time that you're going to see it happen. Now, it is putting the spotlight on community, right? So it is in opposition to the 5th house, where you have your chart ruler Venus going through Mars, Pluto, Sun, Mercury, where it's a lot of what you're creating, what you love, what hobbies you're doing. So it's possible that if you're making something, creating something, launching a business, or there's something going on in your love life or with your kids, you're wanting to share that with other people, and you're wanting to kind of celebrate some of your creative abilities. Big theme for you, Libra risings, is you're going to see a solar eclipse here coming in the next month. I really feel like this is about leading with authenticity in your social circles, and this is about really like showing other people what creative skills you've got. I also think for many of you guys, this could be some kind of really significant wish fulfillment, whether that's in a relationship, or if it's big when it comes to investments or something in regards to your own business. There is likely going to be some kind of good news that you're going to be able to share with those who are closest to you. All right, Libra, let's take a look. What do Libra risings expect with this full moon that's taking place in Leo? The card that I get is the 6 of Cups. I love this card. Checking in with familiar people. You know, it can mean that there are some friends you have not really chatted with recently, and you go to a party and you reconnect with them. It can also mean that it's like connecting with a group of people that you have known since you were younger. Celebrations that might include children, so like friends who are getting pregnant or buying houses or getting married. It can also mean that you're trying to find a way to kind of reconnect with your audience or feel a little bit more personal, or you're doing a check-in with other people. So it's not just so much about you, and you would think that when planets go through the 5th, but what you are kind of celebrating with others. So you may play a role in collaborating with other people, helping when it comes to party planning. There could be like kids parties or friends kind of celebrations that you're getting involved in. And honestly, it looks like a lot of fun, and it looks like you're going to be really thrilled to connect with some of these people. So let me know what happens, Libra. I hope it's a good one for you guys. Scorpio risings. You guys are going to be doing a full moon in Leo in your natal 10th house. Scorpio, if you have anything 12 to 14 degrees, this is squaring you. So you're kind of a little bit in the pressure cooker. But a 10th house full moon is pointing to your career, your reputation, a culmination when it comes to business, when it comes to authority and visibility. Scorpio, the moon rules your 9th house, which deals with traveling, education, publishing, marketing. So if you're in any of these businesses, this is going to be a peak time for you. And you're seeing the polarity between the 4th house where Mars and Pluto have been moving through. So you're going to feel kind of the intensity at the end of January into February where you are full speed ahead with taking some kind of action at home. What might start off as a crisis may materialize as something that's really going to kick your butt into high gear when it comes to really focusing on your professional goals and your professional life. Trust me on this. I do think that I would go back and I would think about what has happened in recent years. When you had Mars retrograde there in early 2025, when you had Mercury retrograde there in the summer of 2025, there's been this back and forth kind of cat mouse game with a lot of Scorpio and Scorpio risings that's like, I want to work, I don't want to work, I want to do this isn't working, and you're kind of like reorganizing things. Definitely a good moon if you want to release something, like if you're wanting to launch a business, quit a job, make a big public announcement about work, if you're wanting to market your business, expand your business. Yeah, and be optimistic about it because of that connection to your 9th house. However, you're still getting pulled in 2 different directions. There may be a lot of career success going on, but there's a lot of challenges either on the home front domestically or potentially just emotional turmoil or family stuff that's kind of brewing. So there can be a lot of okay, this is going on, but the show must go on and I have to kind of put myself out there and really show up. I feel like if you can really make some radical changes and restructure everything about your home life, Scorpio, you will see the success that you guys want to see. Especially with Saturn and Neptune going into your 6th house here soon, you guys are going to work your tails off. You're going to be just work, and you're going to realize that some of the pressure that's kind of coming either from the family or the home base is prompting you to kind of adapt to a new schedule. And then in turn, you will see over the next year, there's going to be a major career glow up happening for you guys. This is only the beginning. This is about stepping into your personal authority. Remember, the moon is also going to be your public reputation. So people are going to go oh my God, they're a star, or they're doing so great, or they shine. Wear gold, wear yellow, wear anything that's going to be connected to the symbol of Leo so you get more visibility. Try to manage and balance some of the intensity of what's going on at home, but let that be the catalyst for going further with some of your career kind of goals. But launching businesses, taking jobs, changing jobs, all that stuff can kind of happen under this full moon. But I think it's actually quite positive for you guys. Step into your authority. That's what I have to say for you guys. And yes, you're putting out some fires at home, but you'll be able to manage this and rise to the occasion. All right, Scorpio and Scorpio risings, get the King of Wands. Yes, even if you're a queen watching this is still a good card for you. This can mean that there's support coming from an Aries, Leo, or a Sagittarius. It can also mean that you're channeling more of the masculine energies where you're I am just taking action, I'm creating, I'm putting stuff out there, I'm confident, I'm bold, I'm taking risks. That's what I want you guys to do. Leo is about risks, guys. Even if it's not in your 5th house, it is going to be about that. So taking creative risks, maybe this means that you're taking a chance when it comes to doing a different type of work or marketing or branding yourself a different way. Maybe you're making some bold presentations and you're definitely having to get out of the house and putting yourself where the people are. So this is great if you're an artist or you're somebody who's in a creative field, because I really think that you guys are going to shine and seize the moment. Good luck, Scorpio. Let me know what happens. For my Saggies and Sag risings, you guys are going to be doing a full moon in Leo in your natal 9th house. Fellow sister fire signs, so if you're 12 to 14 degrees Sag, this is trining you, pretty friendly. And it is highlighting your 3rd house and your 9th house, which are very much about communication, travel, education, your beliefs. So there can be a lot of kind of moving around or traveling around when you see these full moons. Now, the 9th house is going to be being in an airport, some kind of graduation, publishing something, going back to school, focusing on a degree. And the moon is connected to the 8th house. So it can indicate that part of the change that's kind of happening is a shift in your philosophy about home, about money, right? About security, and how to be able to communicate and kind of express some of these things. Now, your chart ruler isn't really impacted during this full moon. We do see quite a few planets going through Aquarius. That's quincunxing Jupiter. So it is talking to and basically saying you have to speak up, you have to communicate, you have to be vulnerable, and it may be kind of pressing on you to make some home or emotional changes. And it will definitely highlight kind of broadening your kind of beliefs and also ideas and communication. I love this for those of you guys who are in education, travel, or publishing. I think that this can be a time where you're really showing a different side of yourself, some skills, and potentially even some new ways to make money. But knowing you guys, you're very much a Sagittarius kind of ninth house energy. A lot of you guys are going to be traveling, or you're going to be planning trips, or you're going to be on the road. And it can represent kind of needing to balance communication and getting around. And also maybe some pressing things with your finances that's connected to these topics, but nothing that you guys can't particularly kind of handle. If I were you guys, I would just share your vision wisely and be optimistic. And I know that you are, because you're going to see some really positive kind of emotional changes and opportunity to explore. All right, let's see what does Sag and Sag rising need to know about this full moon in Leo. The card that I get is the Three of Wands, which I love with like the stuff going on in the third house. I think it's beyond the part of, well, where am I going to go or what am I going to do? Now it's like, okay, we're setting off. So I think some of you guys are actually going to be traveling. This is also about kind of like being a little bit more adventurous and maybe like taking some risks. So I'm wondering, what are the risks that you guys are taking? Communicating, being more vulnerable. You might be taking some risks when it comes to education or traveling and exploring, going places that you've never been before. It might also be with other people. So you might be traveling with others, or there can be kind of going on a long distance trip and you're seeing family, or maybe you're bringing siblings with you, or there's going to be some kind of getting out of your comfort zone with communication and maybe having some language barriers, but definitely feeling like you've got people with you who can kind of support you along the way. And if it's not travel related, it can be education related. So a wonderful time to check in with a counselor, even be looking at options when it comes to education and degrees. And I really feel like the sky's the limit with this one. So it's like all full steam ahead with wherever you guys are expanding and also exploring. Great card for you guys. For Capricorn and Capricorn rising, you guys are going to be experiencing the full moon in Leo taking place in your natal 8th house. Obviously, this is a house that is kind of hidden, right? Things don't really shine here. It is a house of deep transformation, intimacy, tax-related matters, other people's money, things that are connected to inheritances, intimacy, vulnerability. So it's really lighting that up. So it's very financial for you and for Cancer. The sun being the dispositor of the moon and moving into the 2nd house is definitely talking about some big money things that are happening. Now, Saturn's not aspected really at all at the time of this full moon, so nothing's really kind of taking place that's impacting you directly. But we do see Mars, Pluto, Sun, Venus, Mercury going through the 2nd house, and it is kind of this power up when it comes to your values, when it comes to anything that's connected to your resources, money in the bank. So it can be money in, money out, or paying big bills, but you do have an incoming solar eclipse in February that is going to be highlighting more kind of like focus on like building your wealth and accumulating more resources. Perhaps this is just like a realization when it comes to like your budgeting and your expenses, and it's going to kind of put things in perspective and show you where you need to make some kind of tweaks, or that there could be a lot of money going out, and then you'll have some new budget that's kind of set next month. So I would say that there can be this deep emotional release when you have a full moon in the 8th house. Like something does change, and the moon is connected to the 7th house of relationships or partnerships. So it's really highlighting for a lot of you guys emotional conversations with partners or business partners, spouses about money. It can also be some big changes going on in your partner's resources or income. So they could be coming into some money, or there could potentially be a big bill and you guys have to figure out how to manage it. Changes with insurance can kind of happen around this time as well. And I do feel like there is a sense of feeling empowered because of a joint financial situation. And so suddenly, because you're working with somebody or your partner comes into money, or there's this expansion when it comes to your business, if you have your own business, there can be more that can kind of start to come into your pocket. So feel empowered, focus on merging. It's really important to be vulnerable, especially about financial or anything that deals with like taxes or debt. And sometimes, touch wood, when we do see a full moon in the 8th house, there is an end of a certain situation. So if there has been some stagnant situations where money hasn't been coming in, or you've been waiting to kind of receive something, you can be getting news around the time of this full moon that it's actually about to come through over the next month. All right, so let's take a look. What does Capricorn need to know about this full moon in the 8th? We've got the Knight of Pentacles. So this is about money. This is also about some kind of message that's coming. It's slow, but it is coming. And I do think a lot of you guys are going to see this later in the month, especially if you've been fighting to receive something, right? Whether it's an inheritance or to get paid back from like a refund, or if there's been a hot or like a heated debate that's been going on with a partnership or a separation, you know, now it's like, okay, we're going to get word that this is actually going to happen. This could be you, Capricorn. It's saying just keep your cool, you know, stay cool, calm, and collected, and be patient because you're about to receive note that this is going to change. But you can see help coming from another Capricorn or Taurus or a Virgo. And this could also mean that you're really thinking about investments. So you may be finding that, okay, there's money that's come in, you know, or you've made money off of something, you're cashing some of it out, and then you're waiting to jump on making a bigger investment. So pump the brakes, don't make any crazy decisions right now, but certainly in the next month, I do think things are going to change for the better. Good luck, Capricorn. For Aquarius and Aquarius rising, you guys are going to be doing this full moon in Leo, your opposite sign, in your natal 7th house of relationships or partnerships. And for you guys, the 7th house could be a therapist, a relationship, a business partner, a spouse, your relationship to your children even. So this is getting highlighted in a big way. And obviously the ruler of this full moon is Aquarius, where the sun is. So it's basically saying, all right, you know, you play a key role in your relationship dynamics. And when you see a full moon between the 1st and the 7th, it's highlighting who you are individually and what kind of changes you're going through personally, what's evolving, and how partnerships factor into that. Now, the moon is actually connected to your 6th house. So it could be scheduling conflicts in relationships, relationships with fellow employees, relationships to your healthcare practitioners, relationships even to your pets. And there is a lot of dynamic energy going through your chart. So I know a lot of you guys are going through some big transformations and you're changing. And that's highlighting some of the more dramatic kind of emotional things happening in relation to other people. Now, obviously, relationships can culminate. So some of you guys can get engaged, you can get married, you can be talking about what changes you need in relationships. It can also be a make or break situation going on with relationships as well. And truth be told, with all the planets being in your sign, it's very much about me and what I need and what is and is not working, or what I'm going through and needing support from another person. So there's a sense of being like, can you help me? Can we work through this? It's really good for working with a therapist or an astrologer. And it can also incentivize you to be willing to get outside of your comfort zone and put yourself out there and potentially go further in a relationship or meet somebody new. So for a lot of you guys, it's about balancing the me versus we, which is much easier said than done. There's a solar eclipse coming soon in your sign where you're definitely going to be feeling like you're going through some profound personal change, physical changes in your appearances. And I think the positive is that it's really highlighting that relationships can grow, they can evolve, and you can actually see relationships get better as long as you're willing to ask for help and tell people exactly where you're at. If this were me, I would be saying, all right, you know, take a look and see, are your relationships supporting the person you're becoming? Whether that's your friends, relationship with kids, spouses. And if not, this can be a time where if you're feeling like you need more support, you can get it from other people. You can actually enrich a relationship with a child or romantic partner. You can also go and find a therapist or an astrologer who can kind of help guide you through some of the more intense transformative energies going on in your sign. But even though this is a relationship moon, I know over the next several months, it's going to be more about you and less about other people. A lot of your relationship stuff is really going to start to evolve and kind of glow up over the summer, June, July, August, when we see eclipses in your 7th house and Jupiter moving through there. So right now I would be more focused on myself. So it could be relationship to self that's coming up as well. And obviously with some of the squares that's happening that are coming into Uranus, your modern day ruler, it means that you're having to communicate to either your family, your friends, your partner, what's changing with you emotionally and what's changing on the home front. All right, so let's take a look. What does Aquarius and Aquarius rising need to know about this full moon in Leo? The card that I get is the Death card. So that's an ending which leads to a new beginning. Certainly, I would say some Aquarius risings are going to feel like they're at a turning point in a relationship. And then if it's not working, they're like, I can't focus too much on them. I'm going through my own stuff. I need to focus more on me. And if they don't like that, or if there is some kind of resistance to me making this change, so be it. But change is inevitable, right? You're going through a Mars and a Pluto transit at the time of this full moon. So there's this immense amount of like personal power, but also it could feel like there's like a lot of purging and there's like a lot of things changing. And so your kind of evolution that you're going through right now may also kind of kick up some dust and bring up some drama in a relationship. Don't resist the change, lean into it, because however you've been relating hasn't been working. And maybe if you haven't been open to relationships, it's pushing you to realize that relationships might just be the thing that you need. So appropriate with Pluto in your sign. So let me know what happens, Aquarius. And for my Pisces and Pisces risings, you guys are going to do this full moon in Leo taking place in your natal 6th house. Now, the 6th house for you does deal with health, habits, work, routines, and pets. Obviously, we see polarity between the 12th and the 6th house, where there's just a gangbusters of planets moving through the 12th house, which is talking about kind of going into hermit mode, spiritual practices, releasing old fears, like, you know, opening yourself up to kind of coming into this release period where you realize that some of the things that are going on, whether it's bad habits, avoidance, you know, not getting enough sleep, kind of isolating yourself, can lead to lack of productivity, can also lead to some physical health related issues. So with that being said, when you have a full moon in the 6th house, you do need to pay attention to what's going on with your health. Leo can be the back and anything that's connected to the spine. It can also have connections to your heart. So like heart rate, blood pressure, that kind of stuff, and your diet and your day-to-day routines as well. So really this is about saying, all right, we need to really bring more sunshine into the daily routine. Now, does that mean that you're taking supplements for that? Are you getting in the sun more? Are you just focusing more on physical activity and kind of working up a sweat? Because the 12th house is the subconscious. So there's probably a need to kind of get clarity about, well, why am I not sleeping? Or why am I not able to, you know, feel rested? Or what is lacking in my day-to-day routine where I'm feeling kind of unfulfilled or kind of alone? The moon also is connected to the 5th house, which deals with children, creativity, self-expression. So we want to integrate some of that into your day-to-day. If you have hobbies, if you're spending time with younger people, if you can do some kind of creative work and integrate that into your life, likely you're going to feel a little less kind of like out on your own. And when these planets start finally coming out of your 12th house, which is going to be end of February, kind of going into March, you'll see what I'm talking about. But I think that really this is about infusing your work with joy, opening up the, you know, the blinds in your office, maybe moving some things around, you know, in your bedroom, implementing sound healing and other things that could actually positively influence your mood, and focusing on ways to be a little bit more productive and have ways to have fun with your daily routine. Health that's also connected to children or fertility gets highlighted, or health that's connected to, I would say, reproductive stuff if you're a woman, because Jupiter is in that house, so that can be putting an emphasis on, you know, taking care of your kids. Obviously, 6th house is work, so cooking, cleaning, that kind of stuff. And maybe where you're feeling like, man, you know, life has gotten kind of like monotonous. It's like the same old grind. I just work, eat, go to sleep. And I would say if you're finding more time for joy or creative habits or hobbies, you're going to be feeling a lot better and a lot more, I think, kind of like energized. But yes, watch your health. Let's take a look and let's see. I know for some of my Pisces and Pisces risings, you guys have been working hard on your health all year. So it can mean that you have finally kind of gotten out of some of these more negative mindsets. And maybe it means that you're seeing the results that you have been wanting to see. And even still, you're like, I need more sleep. So let's take a look and let's see what's happening. All right, so you get the King of Wands as well. So it's very, very good for you. I love this. I feel like this is about channeling that kind of fire energy. Like the King of Wands wants to be active and dynamic and moving around and getting things done. He also is very confident. So I would say you have to be making the time for the things that you enjoy doing, and you have to feel confident about kind of carving that time into your schedule. Maybe you're finding ways to kind of bring more fun into fitness and wellness. So it could be things like a dance routine or like hot practices, like hot yoga. It could also mean that you're really feeling inspired to take some of your creative projects and like turn it into something that could potentially be a great money-making opportunity. Very soon, when Saturn and Neptune go into conjunction in your 2nd house, you are going to be feeling driven to launch some kind of creative project and make more money. So I think for a lot of you guys, this is about really getting into a routine so you're really ready to do that and hit that hard in the spring. Watch for support that can come from a Leo, an Aries, or a Sagittarius in the process, and really channel that by being confident about being able to get all of the things done and feeling good at the same time. All right, well, that was the full moon in Leo. So as we're kind of closing out this video, remember this is going to be a fiery moon, but I think it's going to be a good one. We all really need to focus on the light right now more than ever. I hope you guys are able to manifest all the things that you're kind of desiring, and that you are definitely able to kind of have that roar that I know that we can see with a full moon in Leo. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Give me a thumbs up and consider sharing. Drop your rising sign below. What is this full moon doing in your house? What aspects is it making? And where have you learned to overcome some of the fears of creativity and self-expression? And now I'd love to hear what you guys are launching or doing around the time of this full moon. I'll see you in the next video. Until next time, take care.